What's going on, everybody? Jared Sandler here with you, ready for episode 74 of the Just a Sec Conversation as we kick off December with a guy who spent lots of time putting in work here in the DFW Metroplex as the television voice of the Texas Rangers, as a sports talk show host, and now as someone who broadcasts for UCLA and various other events across the country. That is Josh Lewin. And Josh was my first boss. I guess Josh and Norm Hitzkes were my two first bosses in separate internships that ran concurrently. I kind of bugged the you-know-what out of Josh, and I asked him if I could just hang out with him in the booth over the course of a Rangers summer and just help however. And eventually I think my emails became annoying, and he just gave in. And it was incredibly influential for me, and hopefully I didn't bug him too much. But I always enjoy my chance to catch up with Josh. I want to thank Zach Rowe for producing this and all episodes of the Just a Sec Conversation. And I want to thank you for your support, and would really appreciate if you would consider maybe taking this link and sharing it with someone or some people who you think might enjoy it. Clicking the like button or the subscribe button, comment, any and all would really be appreciated. But alas, here is episode 74 of the Just a Sec Conversation with Josh Lewin.
Very on brand for you. You're someone who's always had fun doing stuff, someone with all sorts of interests, and now you are dominating social media by broadcasting your everyday events. How did that idea come about, and how much fun are you having doing something like this?
Well, I mean, fun as much as we can all have fun right now, you know. I mean, I'm out here in California where the whole state is on lockdown, and I mean, it's a great place to be locked down. I mean, I'm looking at the Pacific Ocean as I'm talking to you, and that's a blessing. But these are scary, weird times, and it's kind of laugh to keep from crying, I think, you know. So I ventured out to a very empty CVS parking lot about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I guess, and it just kind of struck me that, boy, there's just nothing going on. So when I finally saw a car pulling out of the lot, I don't know what struck me, but I just turned on my phone and did some play-by-play of it and did some more of a pile of dirt on my way back to the condo, and didn't really think too much of it. It was just something to, you know, keep myself amused. And then I decided, all right, well, I'll post one of these things just to see if it amuses anybody else. And, you know, I don't want to use the phrase going viral these days because that's wrong, but it definitely struck a nerve. And, yeah, I've done, I don't know, probably 20, 22 of these things now, and actually kind of giving it a bit of a break just because I'm, it's not that I'm over it. It's just, it's kind of like, you know, I want a small break from content creation, just to like walk the beach and do some reading or whatever else. But, you know, fun little side project that came out of nowhere. And if it amuses some people, that's great.
Now, a lot of people, especially here in DFW, know you as a broadcaster, you know, doing the Rangers, working on the radio. But, you know, I think people who are around you know you as someone who loves all sorts of things, whether it's playing the piano or the entertainment side. What would you say, other than sports, are your favorite hobbies?
Wow, I got a lot of them. You know, and I've always been fascinated, I think, by people who look to be in more than one space. I think that's why you and Eric Nadel, for example, you know, are so great around the Rangers, because it's so obvious you've got other interests and other skill sets. And, you know, I mean, Eric with his haikus and limericks, and you know, you've got so many creative ideas, and I just you know, I've always been drawn to that, you know, fascinated by people. I look at a guy like Steve Martin, you know, who started out as a comedian, but then became a reasonably serious actor and a banjo player and a writer and an artist. And, you know, I mean, it's a very eclectic mix that he's got. You know, a guy like Justin Timberlake, I mean, I don't love his music, but I just love that he's got so many different interests and abilities. And I don't have, you know, nearly those abilities at all, but I do have a lot of varied interests, and I think that helps when, you know, sports is taken away from us. I mean, if there is no sports and that's all you do and that's all you know, your world is really hollow. So, I mean, I miss sports as much as the next guy, but it's nice to have some other things to fall back on.
All right, Josh, I remember we first met when I guess I emailed you, and I probably bugged the crap out of you, and you finally said, why don't you come and just hang out in the booth? And I spent a couple summers just doing whatever it is that that you and Tom Grieve needed, and I was always amazed that you would be preparing for a baseball game on a Thursday, getting ready for maybe a Fox national game on a Saturday, and then a Chargers game on a Sunday, and then next thing you're back on Monday getting ready for Rangers and some East Coast team all on the other side of the country. What was that period of your life like, and how did you, I guess, do all of that and balance all of that, all those different responsibilities?
Well, I enjoyed that at the time. I mean, it's funny. I'm kind of out the other side of that now. It's not like I'm looking to be retired or pivot completely away, but I kind of look back and it almost seems like that's a whole nother lifetime. I really do like downtime now, and I think downtime made me uncomfortable in my 20s and 30s and 40s. It was kind of like, I'm letting myself down by not occupying every minute of the day, whether that was with my kids or with my wife or with the Rangers or with the Chargers. I just, I never did a crossword puzzle, and I never played cards. Never took time to just, binge a show or anything. It was just always go, go, go. And that served me well for a while. I mean, it put my kids through college, and I got to see a lot of great sporting events. But, I got to a point where, when it was Chargers and Mets, especially instead of Chargers and Rangers, the ping pong back and forth from coast to coast, it just started getting to be a bit of a whip. I mean, it's two great jobs, and I certainly didn't want to walk away from them because I was very blessed to have them. But, I think when you're in your late 40s as opposed to your late 20s, your metabolism is just a little different. And, the thought of, I get to go, coast to coast, 3 days in a row. That's going to be so awesome. That thought just kind of dripped towards, oh man, this is challenging. So, like I say, I wouldn't do it differently. I mean, I'm glad that I worked that hard and I enjoyed every minute of it, but it is kind of nice now to just be able to kick back and relax a little bit too.
You got your start at a really young age, at a time when broadcasters at the level in which you were broadcasting were not that young. I guess maybe it's changed now. You got guys who are taking on a lot of responsibility at younger ages, but when you broke through, you were definitely an exception. What was it like being a young person in an industry that was dominated by people who were your parents' age and trying to become one of the guys, but also make your way and continue to pursue whatever you were pursuing?
Yeah, I was really lucky in that respect. I mean, my first real big job, my first big break was to do basically the exact job that you're doing now with the Rangers on radio. I did it for the Orioles. I was doing AAA ball in my hometown of Rochester, New York, and basically got called up by the Orioles because they, the AAA affiliate, and started doing some sports talk and some hosting and some occasional play-by-play. But the advantage I had was a lot of the guys who were with the Orioles I had just been with in Rochester for the last 5 years. So, we were contemporaries, and it wasn't intimidating at all. And then the other break was when I got chosen to help break in Fox, when they started the baseball coverage in 96, I guess that was. The other people doing those jobs were just as young as I was. It was me and Joe Buck and Tom Brenneman and Chip Carey. We were all basically around the same age, kind of mid to late 20s. So, we were all in that same universe. So, it all felt pretty normal. And what was abnormal now, now that I'm 50, like you say, there's a lot of 25 and 27-year-olds just killing it out there right now. They come through not only Syracuse or whatever, the great broadcast schools, but, you can do your own play-by-play on YouTube and Twitch and develop your own following and develop your own style by the time you're in 8th grade, if you really want to do it now. So, it is odd that I'm now the guy that's twice as old as a lot of the people in the business. And I guess that's just a reminder that things change.
Josh, when I think of your time with the Rangers, unfortunately it was only at the very end that they started to become a really, really good team for that first part of this, I guess, most recent decade. But not to boil your time with the Rangers down to one call, but the first call I think about, and I don't know what memories you have of this game or, heck, if you even like this call, but the David DeLucci walk-off double that scored Michael Young and then Brian Jordan to win a late season game between the Rangers and the A's. It kept the playoff hopes alive. It was a day game, a comeback in the ninth inning. And it was for a while, actually, for one of my friends, that call was my ringtone when he called because he was a big Rangers fan. Do you remember that game and that call in particular? And do you ever go back and say, you know what, I nailed that call, or I really like that particular call in that moment?
I do remember that call. I remember that game just because it was such an unlikely push, and they didn't actually end up making the playoffs. They lost on the penultimate weekend. They just ran out of gas and couldn't quite get it done. But it was that flickering moment. And recently, it's funny because I just relived that with UCLA basketball. I mean, they had this horrible start to their season, losing to, Hofstra and Fullerton at home, and then all of a sudden they win 3 games in a row, then it's 4, then it's 5, then it's 6, and they're, buzzer beaters for number 7, buzzer beater for number 8. And all of a sudden, they're ready to storm through the Pac-12 tournament and maybe win the thing, before coronavirus shut everything down. And I went immediately to that DeLucci game in my mind because it's like, man, it's just so unlikely that they just keep winning these games. So, yeah, that was a fun one for sure. I wish I could have enjoyed 2010 a little more. I mean, I pretty much knew that my time with the Rangers was ending that summer. I had kind of the come to meeting with Nolan Ryan and John Blake, and we just kind of all agreed that this just isn't really working long term anymore. Nolan's vision was just different than mine, and I totally respected that. I mean, what I said to Nolan on my way out was, look, I mean, I drive to work on the Nolan Ryan Expressway. There's no such thing as the Josh Lewin Expressway. I mean, you should absolutely have the broadcast done the way you want them done, and let's just shake hands and move on. And that was tough. I mean, I knew that my time was about to end, but only my wife knew it at the time. Nobody else did. Tom Grieve didn't know it, and my kids didn't know it. And for those last 3-4 months of the 2010 season, they were winning a ton of games like that. And it was fun to nail all those calls, or try to. A lot of Josh Hamilton walk-offs and really cool stuff going on. But there was this, for me personally, there was this kind of an underlying sadness, like, wow, it's just getting good now, and I'm going to be walking away. So, it's funny. 2010, I think what I remember most is, the Rangers put out the press release right before Game 5 of the ALDS. It was a 2-2, best of 5. They were going into that last game with Tampa Bay, and it was like literally hours before that game that they broke the news that I wouldn't be back. So, watching them win Game 5 and then go all the way to the World Series, A-Rod striking out against Feliz, and it was kind of like this bittersweet thing, like, man, 10 years of watching a lot of bad baseball, and, here it is right now, and I have nothing to do with it. But, that was just a personal thing, and I got over it pretty quickly. I mean, I'm, still like the Rangers as an organization, and loved a lot of the people and still do. But, 2010, I mean, just to answer your original question, I mean, so many great moments in that season, and, fun to have been a part of it, even though, like I say, kind of underneath, I was a little sad.
How do you balance, I mean, with all your various responsibilities over the years? I'm sure that's not the only time when maybe your vision differed from someone else's vision. How do you balance being true to you and what you truly believe in, while also considering what someone who also has some level of responsibility believes that might differ from your beliefs? Yeah,
it's a tough line to walk. I mean, you want to be respectful of your bosses for sure, and I certainly, hopefully was never, the kind of guy that was, going AWOL from the program, so to speak. I didn't want to be that guy for sure. But, Harry Callis said it, the late great voice of the Phillies, that, he would invoke the quote from Shakespeare. I think it's Hamlet, to thine own self be true. And I think that when it gets right down to it, I think in any walk of life, whatever you're doing, whatever your job is, whatever relationship you're in, I think, part of what you do in your 20s and 30s is to figure out who you are. And then I think, not that I have all the answers, but what I'm kind of figuring out is I think what your 40s and 50s are for is to implement what you've learned. And, for me back then, I guess I was, pretty much turning 40 and kind of realizing, wow, this is who I am. I mean, I know it pisses some people off if I'm joking around in the in the eighth inning sometimes, and would remind people when it was 2-2. I certainly would never do that, but when it was 10-2. If you're going to be true to yourself, I just really thought, you know what, we're here to have fun. We're here to watch a ball game and relax and get away from it all. And this is how I like to enjoy a ball game. And hopefully it's for most people, but I know it won't be for all people. And I think that in any tenet of your life, I think is important to just kind of recognize that this is what works for me, and surround yourself with people who are like-minded. And if it doesn't work, then, you get to pick up your ball and take it somewhere else. And, that's kind of the crazy way my time in Dallas on the air in terms of play-by-play ended. Was it just was like, you know what, I mean, I'd like for this to continue ideally, but, obviously I've got a situation here where they just don't really think I'm a fit. And I don't want to insist upon anybody. I don't want to be making anybody uncomfortable. So, let's do it politely and divorce amicably. And, ironically, as you know, Jared, because I was going through it, that summer, I did the same thing with my wife. We remain good friends to this day, but it just suddenly wasn't working. And you can either be immature about it or mature about it. And, we tried to just kind of take the high road and shake hands. And, I've now found where I think I belong, and she's found where she thinks she's belonging. And I think that's very true in the broadcast business, too. You go where you fit, and you sit down and stay there until somebody tells you don't anymore.
All right, I got two questions left for you, Josh. The first one involves broadcasting. The second one does not. On the broadcasting side, you've accomplished and achieved a tremendous amount. And you kind of alluded to this earlier. You're at a point of your career where you're not necessarily you don't desire putting your foot totally on the pedal and doing everything and anything like you might have earlier in your career. But is there anything that you'd still like to accomplish in your professional career as a broadcaster, or are you kind of at a place where, hey, I'm going to do whatever opportunities come in front of me, but I'm not, I've kind of done what I've wanted to do, and the rest is gravy?
Yeah, I like the challenge of finding something new. So, I'm exploring this esports universe now. Got asked by EA Sports to do their Madden stuff, the Madden Bowl that's coming up and some of those events, and I like that. It's a young space, and it's a little bit challenging. It's a little new for me, but I like that. So I grabbed that and love the podcasting space. I think that's, all due respect to terrestrial radio. I think that, podcasting is here for quite a while until we all get to holograms or whatever is next. And so I created this Throwback League podcast where it's basically, a March Madness bracket of World Series teams, and the games get played out with a computer sim, and I take the results and go into a studio and just do the make-believe play-by-play with sound effects, and it's been fun, really challenging, something I've never done before. So, I guess short answer, if the right NFL opportunity ever came up again, I do miss doing the NFL. Did the Chargers for, 12 or 13 years, and that was really fun. But it's got to be with the right organization, it's got to be the right fit. And, other than that, no, I just, I like the idea that I don't know what's next. And, to have somebody tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, you want to try this? If it feels right, I'll give it a shot. And if not, then, kind of like you said, I've got a lot of good memories from the Rangers and from the Mets and everything else.
All right, last question, Josh. This is kind of building off the fact that you do have so many interests and you've tried so many things. What is something that you have not tried or not learned at some point in your life that you would still like to try or learn?
That's a great question. And, fortunately, I'm married to someone now who's a traveler and really interested in that. And it's, obviously it's not the year to be traveling now, but, just going and seeing other, not just other places, but other cultures. Really getting a handle a little bit, at least, on, what it's like in places I've just read about, to actually see that culture for myself and be a part of it. So, I know that's not anything that's a professional aspiration or that I can make money doing, but just seeing the world, I guess, is the short answer. And I'm really blessed that, hopefully, obviously, once the coronavirus stuff clears up, that we can kind of hit the restart button and, there's just so much of the world I want to see and so many people I want to meet. So I guess that's probably what's next.
Well, there you go. Episode 74 of the Just a Sec Conversation with Josh Lewin. Thanks to Zach Rowe for producing. Thanks to you for tuning in. We got more coming your way on this channel, so be on the lookout. Until then, stay safe, be healthy, and we'll talk to you soon.